Halito, my fellow bullshitters, check out the recap with Rob and Top Cats. Honey, it got heated. What you waiting for? Hit that like button and subscribe.
Yeah, I wanted to know, Brother Rob. He said that's not his argument. So what exactly is your argument?
All right, let me clear up Guadalupe real quick.
Guadalupe hold on. If Lucy not your argument, then how could Guadalupe be your argument? I want to know what's your stance on the topic of the
I'm about to get
video.
to it. Just give me 1 second, brother. So Guadalupe woman, Guadalupe woman is a non sequitur because Guadalupe woman's age wasn't determined. They say it's a modern human. That means it's not ancient. The bones are not ancient. Okay, that's what I'm saying about Guadalupe woman. There's no argument about the antiquity of bones in the Americas because we don't have any ancient bones in the Americas, right?
We don't have any ancient bones in America. Did what you said?
Yeah.
Well, the first collection of of bones did start in Americas by George Morton. If you're not familiar with that.
Oh yeah, okay, by Samuel Morton.
Yeah, Samuel. My bad, Samuel Morton.
I know about
Samuel. And the bones, did he take them from Africa, or did he use the skulls in the Americas from the Indian Wars?
Well, Samuel Morton, first of all, he was one of those guys who was like a eugenicist and did craniometry, right? We would kind of talk about this in the
Well, he's pre-eugenics, so he wouldn't be a eugenist, sir.
Well, they use him. They use his data, right, to get started with. Let's say that. Samuel Morton was looking at ancient American bones, right? And they were trying to figure out where they came from, right?
You're not Africans, right?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Not at all. Not at all.
So we do agree that the bones were looked at in America because you just made a statement that they weren't.
Samuel Morton's bones that he collected?
He's the first to do it, unless you have someone that came before him, because he sent 4 of his copies to Europe. And that's how they were accepted through the Royal Society, which is the oldest scientific.
But we're talking about where the most ancient bones found, and they're not in the Americas, right?
Well, that's going to come later.
Okay.
Yeah, that conversation about ancient bones is not going to come till later. Okay. I heard y'all speaking about the Darwin theory. They came out of the Royal Geographical Society.
Okay.
Now, Darwin wasn't the first because you had Emrys, who was his grandfather, who was also he was also into this science.
Yeah.
Now, the Darwin's son is going to be the president of the Royal Geographical Society and also British eugenics at the same time.
Right.
So that's how they're going to connect. And Davenport and those guys from the eugenics is going to bring it to the U.S. So I'm asking, what is your stance on the topic? Because if you're saying, even if the oldest bones were in Africa, my question to you would be, how did they leave out of Africa? Because African tribes were not seafaring people.
Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so if we just talking,
great question.
If we're talking strictly just about the out of Africa theory, they're saying that notice I'm saying there. I'm just understanding the information, right? They're saying that there was a satellite group, maybe one group, maybe 2 groups, maybe 3. They don't know, who left and went on into Eurasia. And went on into Asia. And
how did they travel there?
They had to walk.
They had to walk. Okay. Do you feel like walking to the store?
I mean, listen.
All right. So why would someone walk across the planet? We know that Africans were not seafaring people. How do we know that? Because Africans do not have colonies around the world.
Why would someone walk across the planet? Because that's what humans did. Humans went across.
No, humans were seafarers. At the time that these people were walking, you have civilizations who were profound in seafaring.
You didn't have to.
They were shipbuilders and they were navigators of the sea.
All right, let's go back real quick. 40,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, people aren't seafaring people navigating the entire planet.
And where's your source on that, sir?
There's no source. There's no source. We just know.
All right, then we're not here for your opinion.
We know that 40,000 years ago there were people who left Africa.
We don't know that because
we went to Eurasia.
We don't know that because we don't know how they got to where they saying they got to.
We know because their bones were there. Okay.
What bones, brother? And how old is bones before, brother? Do
Their
you know
bones.
how long do it take for bones? Can you go dig up your third great grandpa and his bones still in the grave? No, sir.
Why wouldn't I be
How are
able
we
to?
pulling up
Let's think
million
about
years
that.
old bones?
Let's think about that for a second. Why, how could you pull up bones? Because what happens to what is the Earth's process of the sedimentary process? What happens? You got layers from different ages because over time the Earth, it's a sedimentary process that happens. So you can definitely dig up bones from earlier periods in time.
Okay, so my question still stands. If Africans were not a seafaring people, how did they populate the world? When we have seafaring nations out here who actually had colonies in more than one continent.
Seafaring people who
Yes, sir.
you're talking about modern humans. You're talking about
I'm not talking
modern
about
people.
modern humans.
Yeah, we are. That's
Africans never were
that's
seafaring
that's the
people.
only thing that out of Africa talking about is modern humans.
Listen to me, brother Rob. Africans never were seafaring. They're not even seafaring people today.
You don't have to be seafaring. You don't have to
You
be
have to be a
seafaring to
seafarer, brother.
walk from out of East Africa.
Well, if we're
And,
talking about
and-
civilization, then
no, we're
you
not.
have to be a
No, we're not.
seafarer. Meaning you
We're
have
not talking
to
about
have an
civilization.
advanced science or knowledge that others do not have.
Talking
Okay.
about civilization is moving the goalposts, brother. We're talking about people. We're talking about ancient humans, anatomically modern humans who walked up out of Africa based on out of Africa theory. You ain't got to be
And what
seafaring.
tribe was this that walked out of Africa first?
No, nobody knows what tribe it was.
Okay, so why are we having this conversation?
It's impossible.
Okay, so that's even more reason of you shouldn't be having this conversation right now,
No,
brother.
it's absolutely a reason
Because
we have
it
this
is
conversation
impossible for you to prove it.
because we can take empirical data and we can extrapolate.
Where are you extrapolating this data if you just told me it's impossible to prove it? That means there's no sources.
I just told you where they're getting the data from. They're getting the data from bones.
Well, they're the colonizer. I mean, if you're into colonizers,
So if I tell you what,
that's your thing.
if we're not taking any colonizer data, then you can make some arguments.
Brother, you're older than that science. Were you born before 1985?
I wasn't born before Samuel Morton started.
Well, Samuel Morton was doing cranial measurements, which was scientific racism. He was saying that the basically black people were inferior to white people because of their skull sizes and these type of things. We know that because they came back and apologized later on in the 1970s.
That's right.
But my question to you, you even had friends Boaz and them who later anthropology who came back and went against it. Yep. So my question to you is, what African tribe are you from?
What African tribe am I from? Come on, brother.
Yes, sir. That's a real question.
No,
are you an African? I apologize. You're right. I apologize. Are you an African? Are you of African descent?
I'm of African descent.
You are? Yeah. What tribe?
I don't know what tribe. What
so
tribe.
how do you know you're of African descent if you don't know what tribe you're from?
Because I'm of African descent because my DNA matches with cousins in Africa.
With cousins in Africa.
That's right.
And do you know how they got to Africa?
No, I have no idea how they got to Africa.
Okay, so is it possible that they left America and moved to Africa?
No.
It's not a possibility. You just told me you didn't know how they go, so where did you get that?
Not a possibility. Not a possibility.
Okay, so let me ask you this here. Did Americans build colonies in Africa for Sierra Leone and Liberia? Did Americans have...
Watch this.
Hold on, I'm almost done. 10 seconds.
I like when people try to move the goalpost over.
Oh, no, we're not moving the goalpost. These are very direct questions. And I see you moving around a lot. You're very comfortable earlier. But you can't find a comfortable spot in your seat. I see you leaning to the left and the right. These are very direct questions.
This is the beauty of semantics. Now, we're talking about ancient Americans, right?
Now, Rob, you're being emotional now. You're not thinking with a logical mind. You're being emotional.
Simple question. What tribe are you from?
I'm excited.
That's what you told us earlier. No emotions.
I'm excited. Now, check this out.
Yeah.
So now,
excitement is not emotion.
This brother came in and he wanted to move the goalposts of the discussion to trying to use me in a modern context to make an ancient argument. Now, tell me what
Well, you can't make an ancient argument because you I'm sorry, Ms. Wonder. Brother, you yourself just told us that it's impossible and that there are no primary sources. So I'm past that conversation.
I don't
Right? If
even
you
know.
have
I
no,
don't even know what
if
you're talking
it's
about. I don't
impossible
think
and
you
you
know
have
what you're talking
no
about.
sources on it, then we should move past that conversation, which I did. So we went to you, brother Rob, and I asked, "Were you African?" You said, "Yes, I'm African." What African tribe are you from? You said you don't know. So I'm trying to figure out if you don't know what African tribe you're from, how do you know that you're an African? You tell
Wow,
me you did a DNA test.
that's
But
interesting.
brother Rob, I'm pretty
Because
sure you're older than the Human Genome Project, which came out in 1990. I'm pretty sure you're older than 1990.
absolutely.
Okay, so
What is that? What is that for?
so before 1990 in this test, where were you, brother?
I'm gonna tell you where I was. I'm gonna tell you where
Okay.
I was before 1990s. I was in Houston, Texas. All right, but that none of that has anything to do with whether I
Yeah,
have
but
family
was you an
connections with
African?
people in Africa.
The
It has
question is, was
nothing,
you
it
an
has
African
nothing to
before
do. It
1990?
has, of course, I was not. Come on now, brother.
You
I'm
would
not an
tell you
African.
wasn't an African. Okay,
I'm not an
I'm
African.
glad you're being honest with me.
Just like you can go up to
So
an
when did you become an
average
African?
so-called white person and you're gonna tell them they don't
No,
have
I
any
don't
kin
want
to
with
them.
no white people here today. We're talking to
All right,
Rob.
well, there
So
we go.
you just confirmed us that before 1990 you were not an African. So when was it that you found out you were an African?
What do you, come on, bro? I
1991.
never said I was an African. I said I'm African descendant. And when did I find out I'm African descendant? By reading, brother. By doing research.
You read what book was it you read?
What book do you want to talk about?
The book that you read that said Rob is an African?
We don't have to talk about Rob as an African. We don't have to talk about Rob as an African. We can talk about Rob comes from a community of people who most of my descendants came here as Africans. Some came as Europeans.
Okay, because you do have strong black European gene phenotype. I'm looking at you first time I saw it, I said that's a black European. Okay, so brother, with this African, what year did you take your African DNA test?
This is what we're gonna do. The
Brother
discussion is
Rob, can you
about
find
the
a comfortable
discussion.
seat?
This is
You
what
want
we're
to get
gonna do.
another chair
Real
out the
quick.
house?
The
I don't think that
discussion,
chair's working for you, brother. Don't get too comfortable.
the discussion is
Uh-huh.
who do we say Black Americans are?
No, that's not the
Well,
discussion. The
well,
discussion
well,
is
hold
the
on. No,
topic is African Americans. Where do they come from? That's
Okay,
the topic.
well, we can
And
talk
he's
about
right
African
on.
Americans. We
And,
can
and
talk
he's
about
right
African
on topic
Americans.
because
Where do they come
I,
from?
I, I
And
and I
let's
get that
talk
these are
about.
really tough questions for you, Rob. But, and I'm not.
No,
Nobody's
they're
trying to.
not tough questions. They're not tough questions for me at all because see,
Oh, okay,
because
well,
I got
answer
you.
one. At
this
least
brother,
one.
this is what the brother is doing. He's trying to move the goalpost of the conversation so that we don't have to address this. We don't have to address actual sources, empirical data. He wants to try to make me the crux of the argument, and I'm not the crux of the
Well,
argument.
I
Well,
mean,
brother
and
Rob, hold on, sister one. I think I can explain to. Well, brother Rob, this is what you have
go
to
right ahead, love.
understand. If the title in itself, we have to understand that we're dealing with real people. Okay, so in order to deal with real people, the only primary source in this will be humans, not DNA, not empirical data, not scientists, not anthropologists. They're talking about people.
No,
Rob, if you are a
people are not a
descendant,
primary source
brother Rob,
because
if you are a descendant, that
people
means
are
your
not a.
ancestors were in the transatlantic slave trade. If you're a descendant of Africa,
That's
correct?
right. That's right.
So since your ancestors that went through the traumatic experience are not here, the only primary source to that would be you.
No,
You're the next
I'm
connection,
not
right?
the only primary source.
So yes, sir. If you're a descendant of Africa, then you're a primary source.
I'm not at all
Well, we can only
I'm not
deal
at
with
all the
people.
primary source.
We can only so you can't use another slave to validate Rob's story because that slave doesn't have the same mother and father, which means they wouldn't have the same descendant that came through the African slave trade. So, brother Rob, this is a personal conversation, which you would have to be the primary source. You come here to throw around what scientists and empirical data says. We're trying to find out what a Rob bloodline go back to. Is he or is he not a real African?
I just told you where my bloodlines go back
According to white folks.
Central Africa, and to Europe, to Ireland.
Yeah, you do look very Irish. Do you know the Irish were black?
No, they weren't black.
Okay, well, do your research.
They weren't black. The brother is muted, but let's do this real quick since the brother
He's
wanted
not
to make.
muted. Callie, we can't hear you, Callie. Callie, we can't hear you.
No, I was just saying, brother, you got to understand that's not everybody's story, though,
I
right?
don't believe that it's everybody's story.
Okay.
I said that from the beginning that we cannot make arguments as if we are operating the continuum. I acknowledge the fact that we're composed of many people from the beginning.
Right.
So why are you
Rob,
holding on to this African?
Right,
I'm sorry.
I'm not holding on to African. I say we are African descendants. That's a difference.
You just said that we're all
Rob,
not the
you
same.
have to be an African American.
Who are the we?
Okay, let me say it plain. Let me say it plainly. The vast majority of so-called Black Americans are composed of people of African descent.
But Brother Rob, that's almost impossible, and it wouldn't have any validity coming from you because you yourself just told us you don't know what type of African you are. So, brother, the data that we need is not there, especially coming from you. So you wouldn't be a good source of that. We would need someone who actually can prove African descent and what tribe, and they're actually
how would that make the argument valid? How would that make the argument valid when you yourself just said that we all don't have the same descendants?
We don't. We all have our own story.
I smell bullshit. Don't know what they call it.